Hey everyone, my name is Pixel, and welcome back to another episode of Selene, Apoptosis. Now, there are many things to recap, so I'm going to give you the short version so far. There has a girl who has shown up on our doorstep. She's a cat girl. The player refers to her as a cat over and over again, treats her as such. And then we just got introduced to Ethan and Hope. Ethan is a freelancer, and Hope is his wife. He's engrossed in his work, and he doesn't work for free, but he does one time, trying to figure out the origin of the name Selene. So we are going to get right into this, and we're going to see what other crazy journey we can embark on. If Ethan had to point out when things started to be off, he would say it was on Saturday. That is, about a week after the first letter. But this, of course, wouldn't be accurate. Those weird things started happening almost immediately after he pressed the send button. The first night, he saw a room in his dreams. Oh, it's a bright room. What kind of room is this? Oh, it's a couch. Oh, no. It's just a solid red couch. A chipped white ceiling and similarly rough walls lit with fluorescent lamps. Ethan couldn't see the lamps themselves, but he recognized the cold, shimmering light. They often used those lamps in the offices. The light filled the room to the brim. Ethan thought it was about to burst, and then the light would splash all over the room, just like the juice from a squished tomato. That's not a tomato, it's a couch. Apart from the walls and the light, the room had a red sofa. The sofa stood just a bit aside from the center, not too large, quite faded, flooded with shimmering white light. This light made the sofa seem to be trembling a little, and the room trembled with it. What's so special about this sofa? Huh? Is this our sofa? The one that we have in our apartment? Suddenly, Ethan thought it would be way better if the sofa was standing right in the middle. Then he felt something on his temple. A touch. He had to flinch, scream, stumbled aside. Yet he couldn't. He was paralyzed. Only his eyes could move, and they desperately tried to reach beyond his field of vision, where something was touching his temple. Ethan felt a faint flow of air as if someone was whispering in his ear. He did hear the whisper, just one word. Ethan no longer remembered what the word was when he jumped up in the bed, gasping for air. Hope muttered something in her sleep and turned to the other side. It took a long time to get back to sleep, but by morning, Ethan did pass out, and when he woke up, the dream wiped out of his mind pretty quick. The task at hand interested him much more than some muck spilling out of his subconscious. He was thinking about the task while he was chewing on the morning toast, driving to the bank, and all the way back. It was just like a Christmas present waiting for its time in the closet. The more you tell yourself you shouldn't think about it, the more you do. At home, Ethan tried to stick to his plan, working on the project he was paid for, but ended up sitting over a single report for several hours. He couldn't squeeze out a letter. To hell with it. After all, he was almost done with his current project. It wouldn't be much of a problem if he presented the result a bit later on, would it? Besides, it was really time for him to get a breather. One can't be spending so much time in a world where madness, curse, and death are contagious. To hell with it, again. Ethan thought as he closed the files of the project he was paid for. So he's done with it. No more project. There was plenty of information, but Ethan knew he would not get an answer right away. The accurate answers, just like the precious pearls, lay at great depths. He had to go down to the very bottom. Ethan was not afraid. He had done it many times. His counterpart might have to wait a week or so, but Ethan knew he'll manage to crack the riddle. The riddle of what? What kind of riddle are we cracking here? Is it a sliding puzzle? Is it one of those math things? What he didn't know is what else could be found at those great depths. And at some point in his investigation, things started happening. He started hearing sparse phrases even though he never turned on TV or radio, and Hope wasn't even at home. When he sat in front of the screen, once again trying to connect the dots in his research, he could feel someone looking at the back of his head. When he turned around, of course, there was no one in the room. Eventually, something flashed across the screen. He just got angry, pushing fingers into his temple when the familiar feeling appeared again. What's that familiar feeling, Ethan? Is it death? Is it worry? Is it horniness? He started losing things. Or rather, things would disappear and then appear in the strangest of places. One day he found his pencil in the freezer, stuck in a minced meat briquette. Even when the briquette melted down, he couldn't pull the whole pencil out. All Ethan got was a bloody stump. What? Okay, the meat was bloody. I for some reason I thought it was referring to something else. At this point, he could stop and think of it, but got distracted by the coffee maker and mindlessly shoved the stump into the trash bin. Man, we're going on about this pencil. This is one serious pencil, I'll tell you that. There was something wrong with the shadows, too. They became sharper, thicker, deeper, and it was the case in the whole apartment. Sometimes they moved. Of course, Ethan only felt like they were moving. It couldn't have been any other way. Ethan didn't really pay attention to any of this, just like he did with that dream he had. All of that seemed very familiar, as if he was already experienced similar things during the periods of intense work when his nervous system was exhausted by the workload. There always was a rational explanation: the stress, or those new, much more environmentally friendly light bulbs that Hope had installed all around the apartment. Besides, it was so easy to dismiss this sort of thing when you're deeply invested into something, and this question really got Ethan involved. Every time he seemed to get it right, his thought went off. Like he was climbing a rock, but a safe ledge suddenly turned slippery, and the next thing he knew, he's at the bottom again. He never faced anything like that during his previous research. There were times he had to spend weeks or months looking for the right answers. Those were the tricky cases, but at least he could always tell how his research is progressing. This time, he was stumbling in his tracks without knowing why, and that was all he could tell. He seems to be going a little crazy. Maybe he's on sleeping pills too. The week was over, but he still had nothing to send back to his contact. In his reply, Ethan asked a couple of questions. Not that he was really interested, just a courtesy. And that's how their surprisingly exciting email conversation started. With this, Ethan's contact grew to be something more. Something of a friend, maybe. He never asked how Ethan's work was progressing. This was the question Ethan asked himself, and the answer was never good for him. Well, if it's never good for you, you're never going to be satisfied with your own work. Of course, he started sleeping badly. Falling asleep was easy, but he woke up many times during the night, sometimes in cold sweat. Ethan could not remember his dreams. You know, most people can't, so you're not alone. That night, he woke up about 3 or 4 times. At first, Ethan was lucky enough to fall asleep almost immediately after he woke up. But at some point, his eyes got open again. This time, the sleep wouldn't come. Ethan felt terribly thirsty. He found no slippers on the usual spot. The noise could wake up Hope, so he decided not to look for them and only regretted it when approaching the kitchen. The floor was bloody cold, so cold that Ethan unconsciously looked down. Oh, and what's he gonna find? What's on the floor? Is this one of the shadows dancing for him? My dude, you've got some real crazy shadows. And when he was looking up again, he saw a shadow. No doubt that shadow belonged to a woman. A naked woman. Ethan could clearly see the points of her nipples as the shadow turned around. No wonder it's freezing cold here. Is that why it's freezing, Ethan? Is that why? The shadow moved slowly along the wall, floating in a rectangular pool filled with moonlight. She was dancing. She was dancing, and the humming silence in Ethan's ears was her music. Ethan was watching her, unable to move. He was paralyzed, just like back then in his dream. But he did not remember it. At that moment, he didn't remember anything at all. Couldn't think about anything at all. What is this? He felt an itch in his eyes and the momentary urge to blink. For a fraction of a second, he could only see the thick, viscous darkness, and when he opened his eyes again, there was no shadow anymore. The glowing rectangle shifted its place and now lay on the kitchen floor at Ethan's feet. He could see the cold white light flowing into the seams between the tiles on the floor. For some reason, he took a deep breath and then stepped forward into the rectangle of light. Nothing happened. And what was supposed to happen? What did he really see? Did he really see anything? Is he just going crazy from the madness of his sleeping pills? He walked deeper into the room, much bolder, grabbed the decanter and started to drink in big, greedy sips. Water streamed down his chin and chest, hitting the tiles on the floor and poured into the grooves of the seams. No, that wasn't a delusion. The kitchen was completely empty and the floor felt warm again. And yet, it wasn't a delusion. I'm pretty sure that's the textbook term of delusion, Ethan. You watched a naked shadow dance. You think that's normal? No, that's not normal, Ethan. That's crazy. And all of this was begging for a rational explanation. That's why Ethan decided he should talk to Hope in the morning. Oh, God. Don't tell Hope that you saw a naked dancing shadow. And with that, we are going to leave that all for today. I am all out of time, you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. What wild episodes we have going on here. This man he can't get to sleep, having weird dreams, and now he's seeing naked dancing shadows that disappear in the blink of an eye. What in the world are we going to see next? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, feel free to like the video. You want to see more of this, follow along with this series as we have, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell. You'll get notified whenever episodes come out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now.